Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Chris Johnson, and I'm your host for our show, Just Win. And Just Win is about everyday people and their struggles and how they overcome adversity, how they deal with the stress of life. Just Win, to me, is what is important now.
Yeah, I believe in that.
And unlocking your mental power. And today, one of my right-hand guys in my company in Just Hoop, we got the honor to having Cory Smith.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man.
I really don't want Cory on here
I don't know
today.
where we go.
But Cory has a great story, and a lot of you guys don't know the connection between Cory and I. So I want to talk first about the connection. I've been knowing Cory since he was in middle school. Cory's been coming to my basketball camps, and I'll take you back to that journey. I've been very blessed. In the basketball game outside of being a player, college player.
Yeah.
I've been able to coach at every level. And you start with the NBA, G League, college, graduate assistant in college, so you guys would know too, high school, top AAU. So when I was a high school coach, and I know this is dating my age, but when I was a high school coach in the state of Texas, Cory, from the 6th grade all the way through, have been in my life and been to my camps and was in our program. So this is going to be, a real personal interview, but it's also letting you know how we build relationships, we keep relationships, and having people around you for a long period of time tells you a lot about that person.
Right.
So Cory was an unbelievable athlete, so you guys will know. On the track, football, basketball, it's the state of Texas. Obviously, Cory focused on basketball. And Cory played for what we call the Houston Hoops, which at that time was one of the top basketball AAU programs in the country.
Right.
Our high school program was one of the top basketball programs in the state of Texas.
Right.
That tells you how great of a player Cory was. And, Cory work ethic, when he was coming from 8th grade to 9th grade into high school, was unreal. I said, Cory be at the gym at 5 a.m. Cory's at the gym at 4:45 at 14 years old. You remember that, Cory?
Man, I remember those days, man. I was waking up, knocking on my dad's door, asking him, hey, I got to go to the gym. He's like, what time you got to be there? I said 5, but I like to get there early. And, I remember when you told me this, if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time.
Right.
If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's just how I truly believe. And if now even you being around some of the greatest players in the world,
right.
The greatest players in the world not even 15 minutes early.
That's a fact.
They're an hour and 15 minutes early. And now you've been in the industry and working, you really see what that looked like. But your work ethic was unbelievable. And the one thing that Cory had working for him was his work ethic and his ability to shoot the basketball. He was a pleasure to coach. He played on varsity all 4 years. And he was climbing the charts through development. And this is how I got into really learning how to develop players, was being a high school coach and running a development program at the time. And, that really teaches you how to develop a kid from elementary, middle school, high school, into college, and then on to the pros. And that's what development was for me. And Cory superseded that with his performances in game and his performance away from the game when it came to work ethic. Going into Cory's sophomore year, Cory had a great sophomore year on the court, in the classroom, everything. He was probably one of the most favorable or liked people at his school, which is Clear Springs High School.
Yep.
And in the spring, we have tests, all conditioning tests. You remember that, Cory?
Man, I remember all of it. It was crazy. Running miles, running everything.
Running
Fitness
miles,
tests.
conditioning, speed.
Yeah.
Because I believe the athlete is made through the toughest things, not skill development.
All that.
So people that look at me now and they're like, man, this guy is a basketball trainer. I'm like, they don't even have a clue of understanding who I am,
right,
and what I stand for. And I remember this story like it was yesterday. You have to run to make the varsity the mile under 6 minutes. Cory, if I'm right, I'm probably going to say it was 5 minutes, but it could have been 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah.
He was blazing and did it with a smile on his face. And every college coach was in. Every D1 coach, they were there for Cory and the other players that I had. And we go into the gym after running.
Right.
To hoop and to like train. And Cory got smacked real hard in the nose, but he's so tough he just shook it off. And I remember like the next day his mom came in and she was talking about Cory had to go to a doctor's appointment and need to leave about 5 minutes early because of his what do you call it? Sinus infection. You know, in Texas, everybody got a sinus infection because it's so hot.
Yeah.
It's you know, hot and humid.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, do you remember running on the track?
Man, I remember running on that track. I remember hooping afterwards. Now, what's crazy is I don't remember getting hit on my nose.
Yep.
That's the crazy part.
It came down, you would get, and came down and you got bowled, but you just shook it off. It was like someone here, you wasn't bleeding.
Right.
Nothing. Didn't think anything of it.
Right.
So, to kind of fast forward through the story a little bit, Cory's mom picks him up like a day later, takes him to the appointment for sinuses. And she's supposed to get him some medicine and, you know, clear sinuses.
Right.
And I think they did something different this time, which was the nutty pot.
Right. So what the doctor was telling us was, hey, you know, to clear his sinuses up, so if he has any like sneezing or anything, he's feeling bad, try this new neti pot that they just, you know, came up with. And so my mom and I tried it, and I went to sleep and everything. And then the next day, I just wasn't feeling the same.
Nah, it wasn't even, you didn't, the funny part, I don't know how much Cory remembers about this story. And this really, like, Cory's been around me since, like I said, since he was about 10, 11 years old. And now, Cory, how old are you?
29.
He's 29.
Oof.
So, and I remember this story vivid, like it was yesterday, because his mom called me around almost midnight. And she says, Cory has begun to defecate and pass out. And she could not wake him up, and Cory's head was swelling. So they called 911, and they had to life flight Cory to Clear Lake Hospital in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
And they couldn't figure out what happened, but she called me right away. I woke up, put my clothes on, and I rushed right to the hospital.
Right.
And while waiting in the waiting room, they came back and said, hey, you know, we don't know if he's going to make it. We don't know what's going on, but we cannot stop the fluid going to his brain. And his brain has swelled so big that they had to perform emergency brain surgery to release the fluid off of his brain.
Right.
They had to release the fluid. You don't remember any of this?
Well, I remember from what people tell me, but it was, for me, it was more so as I couldn't believe it. When I finally heard the story, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was for me. You know, all the work you put in and stuff like that, and then next thing you know, life's changed.
The day before, you just ran a 5-minute mile.
That's crazy.
And we just worked and trained for an hour. And then we lifted weights. And then the next day, he was fighting for his life. Mentally, and we're talking about winning and mental fitness and mental health, this had an effect on me as well as Cory. So sitting at a hospital, I'm waiting to see if he's going to live or if he's going to die. And once they said they perform brain surgery, which they remove half of his cranium.
Yeah, they remove half of my skull.
To be able to release the fluid that they could not figure out why would it stop.
Yeah, I remember them telling me that. Like they said, there was so much pressure on the brain and the skull that they couldn't release it through anything, so they had to cut it open. And as soon as they cut it open, to relieve the pressure, so they had to cut up in the skull first, and then when they try to release the pressure, and so they had to get all of the sinus infection, what they call it, subdural emphysema. So when they try to clean most of that up, they pretty much told my parents, hey, all we can do is wait.
Yeah, and I was there. So for me, I've always been a mentally tough person.
Right.
And our podcast is about developing mental toughness. This was a situation that I wasn't prepared for. And, you were one of my favorite players because of the work ethic and the commitment you had for yourself, your family, and the game of basketball. And you was a terrific shooter. And people used to always say, who's your favorite player? My favorite players are always the one that work hard, show up on time, give themselves the best, put themselves in position to win. So I have a favorite player. They just all look like they all look the same. So it makes a difference. But I want to get into after. So I know you have a book coming out. You have a lot of things coming out that's going to be telling your story. So we don't have to tell every part of that story. So I want to get to really the overcoming part and the adversity part and what you do remember. Because I remember the whole story.
Okay.
But I'm not going to tell the whole story. But
right.
I know why you are the best, youngest developer, coach, trainer in the country. I know why. Because of your work ethic, your commitment to excellence, why you love people, and who you've been. You've been the same person your entire life.
Right. So what changed my life, and through all that, what I had to learn is you can lose it all.
Yep.
You can lose it all. In 1 second, 1 moment, 1 hour, you can lose it all. Everything you work for, you can lose it all. And so mentally, it was draining. Every single day, not knowing if I'm going to be able to play basketball again, if I'm going back to school, am I going to be a normal kid again? Because every doctor kept telling me, hey, I don't know. I don't know don't work, especially if you talk about your health.
Yeah. I don't know don't work because they would not put back on your skull.
Right.
Because your skull was infected.
Right.
With the mucus and all of the stuff that came with that, the virus. And so I sat there and I heard them say, we don't know if he's going to live. We don't know if he's going to die. We don't know if his life is going to be the same.
Right.
And at the time, I think you were in the top 3 shooting guards in the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. So at that point, you're going to be a Division I player.
Right.
Your academics was through the roof.
Man.
You were a scholar. You was a leader of a school of like 3,000 kids, and I seen it. So nobody needs to tell me.
Right.
I was there.
Right.
And one of my questions to you is, once we got into the recovery stage, we'll jump through the story because we'll let all of that hospital phase and how we found out what happened and how he actually recovered. Because we know how we found the problem.
Right.
We addressed the problem.
Right.
They fixed the problem. And then they put a titanium.
So what they did was they put a titanium plate on the left side of my brain and a titanium mesh on the right side.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, so the mesh they was able to put in literally right after the surgery, but the titanium plate pushed back everything because they had to create the plate. They had to size up my skull and everything just so they can match. And then I had to wait for it to mesh in. So through that whole process, mentally, it was draining because it's like, okay, when does all this end? So I can get back to who I really want to be. Mm-hmm. And so I remember you told me long ago when we was when you had that season, that my junior year that I didn't get to play. And I remember you said, hold on, pain ends. Hope. Mm-hmm. That was the slogan of that season. And for me,
you said hold on, pain ends. And that was leading into your junior year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was everything that we did with that team.
Yeah. Was
dedicated to you, because you were a starter. We didn't plan on not having you, but it also let me know how you can't take anything for granted.
Right.
And when we came up with that slogan, hold on, pain ends, it was because you refused to listen to me. Okay? What I told Cory is this is before like holding back and all this stuff. I was like, I'm going to write a petition to the state of Texas.
I remember that.
To UIL. And I'm going to petition that you get your junior year back. So let's just focus on recovery, figuring out how to get your brain to mesh back, because without the titanium meshing back, he can have a hit to the head, a brain injury, and he couldn't practice.
Right.
And I knew this, and Cory was like, no, I'm going to play. I'm going to play this year. I'm not going to hold back.
I was stubborn.
And so it's like, well, hold on. You know, pain does end. And so we dedicated that season to Cory with the hopes of figuring out how to come back. Right. Now, what was that like for you being the leader of the team? You was
trying to get back to my team, trying to get my health right, trying to get my life back. And so for me, helping my team was just, okay, let me see. I was trying to be there for every practice. And I was trying to see, I know I couldn't work out, but hey, do you need water? Do you need this? Like, how can I come in and contribute? If it's not on the court, if it's not this, how? And then my thing was, I got to bring energy. Figuring out how do I bring positive energy to an environment, know that my brain might not be in the right setting, but it's not for me, it's for my team.
Yeah. And here's the thing though, Cory. You had that mindset, and we had you in rehab.
Right.
Like, you couldn't walk. You just learned how to talk, but you were on a pace to be a valedictorian of high school. And even through that, Cory still took all of his online classes. This is before online classes even exist. And I was like, Cory, you don't have to do this. Let me write letters. And Cory refused. I want to graduate with my class. Mm-hmm. I want to be there for my team. And I want to fight every day. And that's how you really overcame the adversity in your life. Right. So at that time, we won we had won every tournament we was in, every big tournament, Nike tournament, you name it, we dedicated Cory. We would go to the hospital, and I would go to the hospital.
Yeah.
After every tournament, and I would lay in bed with Cory, pause.
Hey, yo. Hey, yo. Hey, man, what we doing, man?
Because he was in the bed, but I was presenting him the trophy from the team.
Right.
I would bring him the trophy And I would present to him what we did for him after every tournament, after every game. I would go to the hospital and I would keep Cory informed about the team. Right. Now, one of the things that we came up, Cory has his nickname that he gave himself, and because
talking about that I gave myself is crazy.
Yeah, well,
we can definitely talk about it.
So, most people, Cory, life never goes to where they want it, goes the way they want it, because they never can overcome adversity.
Right.
They never can overcome adversity. And not only did you overcome adversity, having the right mental mindset, but then you literally had brain surgery. So you had to have mental fitness.
Right.
And in the journey of you getting back to actually run, in your journey of learning motor skills, hand-eye coordination, shooting mechanics again, we all have this documented, by the way, too.
Facts.
You worked through all of that. Mm-hmm. Then we had an issue.
Man.
Then we had an issue. So one of the issues, so you guys know, was we didn't know, well, we did know that the titanium plate needed time to kind of grow and develop on its own.
Right.
Right? So now even with Cory being prepared to play basketball again, we literally had to figure out how to protect Cory from himself. Because he didn't have no fear. So me, I'm looking around, I'm like, well, we can put a bike helmet on him. I was like, but it might hurt other players.
Right.
So I was going through, couldn't wear a football helmet.
Nope.
He'd been the first player in Texas history to play basketball with a football helmet.
Right.
I got it.
Yeah.
Let's see if they'll approve a wrestling helmet.
The UFC helmet, yep.
It was what was it, a UFC helmet?
UFC helmet, like a sparring helmet.
It's like a sparring helmet. And they approved it because it was soft enough for the players around him.
Right.
But it had the toughness for Cory not to hurt himself.
Right.
This is how Cory got back to competition in the junior year.
Right.
So he actually came back from brain surgery, guys.
Yeah, 4 of them.
4 brain surgeries. His junior year. So we get the helmet.
Right. I remember that.
I remember putting the helmet on Cory, and I was embarrassed. Because I'm going to have to fight somebody, the other team, if they say something about Cory.
Right.
Because Cory's our Cory.
Right.
And can you walk us through what it's like playing in a helmet? And a year before, you led the state in three-point shooting and scoring. And now the next year, you're playing with a helmet on.
It was a crazy experience, first and foremost. Number one, you can't see. It cuts off your peripheral. So it's like anytime I'm trying to make a move or somebody's coming behind me, I literally have to turn my head fully just so I can see left and right. That's the first thing I had to adjust to. Number two, it's like, yo, you're playing with a helmet on your head. Like, don't forget that. You're playing with a helmet on your head. You gotta focus. And so you really have to focus. And so mentally, it's like, okay, I can't do the things that I'm used to doing. So learning how to adapt to the environment of wearing a helmet, okay, knowing that I can't do this and this, let me position my body in a certain way. And then now, okay, my next thing in my head is, what if I get bumped? The first game, okay, if I get bumped, how's my body going to react?
Or practice.
Or practice. Like, how am I going to react? Like when I'm running, will I be feeling lopsided? Like, because it wasn't really heavy, but you can still feel it because I'm still getting used to it.
Corey, you were all gas, no brakes. And let me tell y'all this. Remember I told you Corey ran a 5-minute mile. You know how fast Corey was in sprinting? Even today, all of our hoopers and everybody here that we develop and train, they know how fast you are. Corey had no brakes. So the most scariest thing for me was not Corey. It was the other person. Because Corey was playing so hard with this helmet on. I can't wait for you guys to see some footage
that was
of
crazy.
Corey with our school color helmet on, blue and black, and playing so hard.
Crazy.
So you know the element and the standard that Corey set for his teammates to show up every day.
Yeah.
Because you worked so hard that you became a starter.
Right.
So he didn't just come and sit on the bench. He worked his way from on the bench to playing, to rotation, to becoming a starter. And Corey's one of my favorite people in the world, and he had to work his way in because we were a winning program.
Yeah. And the crazy part it was, people don't know, I lost 75 pounds.
Yep, because you were strong.
So I had to gain all that weight back. I grew, so I had to learn how to adjust to my body. And then so learning all that, trying to get my strength back, trying to figure out how to shoot with this helmet, trying to figure out.
You're the best shooting coach in the world.
Respect,
not to toot my horn, whatever. You know, I know people just see me as here, but actually, I've always been a coach first. But you got the best shooting coach in the world. And remember, guys, if you go back in the story, Corey was at the gym at 4:45 a.m. from 8th grade all the way until he graduated.
Right.
So that's why he became such a great shooter.
Right.
Actually can really shoot it.
Right.
And so you did get it back. And I remember when you hit your first three.
Man, that moment, I can't say it, but I almost teared up, or I did tear up. Here's the reason why. That shot made me feel like I'm back.
He's back.
After all the hard work, after all the times of being put down because doctors say you can't do this, you can't do that. After trying to figure out why this all happened to me, after trying to figure out what did I do wrong.
Well, you got to always get over that. See, that's what Just Win is about.
Yes.
Stop worrying about why it happened to you and figure out what you're going to do about it.
Right.
And that's what you did.
Right.
You never looked back. And we got through his junior year, which we finished in the regional finals. We didn't go to state that year. We should have. We got beat by the twins.
Yeah.
Aaron and Andrew Harrison.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andrew. They're the best two guards in the country.
Respect.
Respect. And they had another player that went to Iowa State. I can't even think of his name on there. He played the Houston Hoops, too.
He did.
But he was good. But I think you said something that, you know, like, we all have a story,
right.
And we all try to figure out, like, why me?
Right.
Or why them?
Exactly.
Why do they get to live this life? Or why their life is... And the more I walk through this journey, Corey, the more I understand that there's no perfect person in the world. And we all have things to overcome. Right. We all have to have mental fitness. Right. We all have to develop these skill sets mentally to become the best version of ourselves.
Right.
You know, and I'm glad I was a part of your story.
Yeah.
And we don't want to tell everything in it, but I wanted people to know who you are and what you overcame, because you're not just somebody talking about it.
No,
no, you were that good. You know, I mean, I'll vouch for Corey on this too, just so you know. He had a game where he had 8 threes in a game as a freshman, sophomore. I think we got him up to 10. I'm a shoot it coach.
Right.
So I'm a coach that I didn't focus on a system. I developed players, and I took their strengths, and what their strengths were, we put them in those continued situations, and for them to have the most success. That's why we're producing all these Division I players and coaching strategies and things like that. But Cory, what do you remember about me as your high school coach? What do you remember? And don't lie.
Well, there's a couple things I remember. Number one, first of all, you set a culture for us.
Yep.
And that's the number one thing I remember is you have to set the culture for the whole program. So going in, I remember you made us sign contracts the very first day.
For sure.
This is how we run our program. If you're not with it, thank you, but we're not interested.
It didn't matter, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter
how good you were.
It didn't matter how good you were because we lost.
We lost a lot of
great players.
We did,
but I ended up with the players
that was going to win with.
That was going to win, and that wanted to be a good student, that were good to their family, and wanted to have a beautiful future in basketball, no matter how far it went.
Right, and then the next thing that a lot of people don't know is that you really cared.
For sure.
And you showed that through, you wasn't really yelling at us at games, but it was some hard practices though. Yeah. I remember those. But what you did was you showed us character. You showed us how to move as a person. You taught us also how to become young men.
That was
that
the
whole process.
That was the whole focus because basketball is a vehicle.
Right.
And sometimes me being a parent now with a son that's averaging 38 plus points a game.
Right.
It's a vehicle. Let the sports take you to different places. Let it take you around the world. Let it introduce you to people.
Right.
Let it introduce you to new businesses. But just know that it's a game.
Facts.
And it teaches you how to play the game of life.
Right.
And more important than anything to me, my entire coaching career has been focused around helping other people win.
Right.
So my celebration is watching you win.
Right.
Watching other people win. And that's what Just Win is about. Most people don't know I have a master's degree in guidance and counseling. I was a graduate assistant basketball coach in college, and so this has been a journey for me of trying to figure out, especially minority people, about emotional intelligence, how we think, how we navigate situations, and this is something that is so exciting for me to share, the podcast with Cory. And just to give y'all a little bit of Cory's story, because we got so much more. And, right now, me and Cory share the stage. Yes, he graduated from college. Yes, he went to college to be a doctor.
Yeah,
that's
the crazy thing.
And called me up one day and was like, hey, I want to come work for your company. And I told him no.
He did.
And Cory flew himself out here and doing Cory thing and showed up at the workout. And then I sat him down. I took him out to eat, and at the time, one of our coaches, then he's coaching in the NBA,
right?
Chris Hines. Shout out to Chris Hines.
Yeah,
Chris Hines, which is another player that I train and coach.
That's crazy.
He's with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Chris left, which opened up a position for Cory to be a part of our coaching. But at the time, I told Cory I wasn't running a babysitting convention,
right?
And that this is my life. Basketball is my life. But what's bigger than my life is having an impact and helping people become the best version of themselves and not cheating the system.
Right.
And that ain't for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody can't come and develop with me because everybody don't want to work hard every day, Cory.
That's a fact.
Everybody don't want to show up and do the same routine.
What's required to do?
Because routine is how you become great.
Man.
It ain't about flash. It ain't about bang. It ain't about social media. That's why I always question. I have the best team, social media team. Shout out to Karina.
No.
Shout
out to the team.
And Kyle and the team.
Yes, sir, Ski.
And we sitting on 1 million hours of film because I'm totally almost against social media.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
So that tells, and we'll have Cory back on, but that's kind of in a nutshell of how Cory even got to where he's at. Now I've been able to use basketball to take us around the world, to show Cory the world, to help Cory become the best man he can be. Cory is the face of Just Hoop. Cory is the bread and butter of what we do with all of our coaches, camps, tournaments. He will be the best teacher, coach, mentor in the world. So you don't just have to look for me. We have a team in place that allows us to really have an impact on players and their lives and their family lives, and we really care. And I'm really happy and proud to have Cory be a part. What year is this for you at Just Hoop?
Year 6 or 7?
Yeah, it's 6. No, that's 7. I can't do it for 7 years. It's year 6.
Year 6.
But it's good. Mm-hmm. And just like Nike built a company, Just Hoop is a company that I'm teaching Cory that we partner and we work with every coach, every trainer, every player, and we want to be a part of people's journeys. We don't own anybody. We don't claim anybody. We are just a small piece, but we have to have a big impact on people. And so I'm proud of you, Cory. Watch out for him.
Man, I appreciate you, OG.
Anything else you want to say about the coach?
Man, look, one thing I do remember is, and this is a little pivot of the story, when he used to come in and give me haircuts, because I couldn't really get haircuts yet.
Oh, that's a deep story. Oof.
We used to have these long talks in these long...
Tell them about the haircuts. They were in the hospital room.
In the hospital room. And the reason why I couldn't do anything else is because when they cut off the skull and they cut it out, they had to just shave one side. So you came in, you was like, Cory, what are you doing? What is this? I was like, what you talking about? He said, no. I'm about to come in here. I'm going to cut you up. I got to make you look right. You can't be looking like this.
Yeah, actually, this is good, and we want to use this clip. When I used to go see Cory in the hospital, they had reattached the skin, but there was no skull.
Right.
So when I touched his head,
I remember that.
It was soft, and the brain was underneath it. And so when I walk in, Cory hair was still growing on the skin with no skull, so that you know. I would go see him every day. I would have practices at 4 in the morning all the way to 10 at night.
Right.
Because I was a high school coach. I was developing. I had Just Hoop. We had everything going, but I never missed a day to go see Cory.
And I respect that.
And I go in, I said, Cory, I'm bringing my clippers. I'm going to start fading you up once a week. And just so you guys know, that's how I made my money growing up in high school. I was a barber for the team. I cut hair in the bathrooms for my teammates.
Right.
And in college, even in college, playing basketball, I cut my teammates' hair. So I taught myself how to cut hair when I was 14 years old to save money so my mom wouldn't pay for my barber because I could pay myself. That's always been me. I'm a hustler. And so I just wasn't cutting Cory hair because I didn't know how to cut. And until this day, I got a barber, but I still cut my own hair. And so cutting the hair, to me, was a moment for me and Cory to bond.
Right.
We had a lot of conversations. We talked about where his future would be and what was going on. But it taught me how to cut hair and have to be very gentle because there was no skull there. Mm-hmm. That's a crazy.
Yeah,
we can't tell no more.
Too much.
We can't tell too much more because you guys got to read his book, and if we can do our 30 for 30, on
we figure that out.
We figuring that out because you got to see the story because we have the film of all of it.
Yeah, but all in all, Shout out to my parents, my family, and stuff like that. And I appreciate you and your family. Y'all was always there when I needed somebody.
Yep.
I can always say that. You was more than a coach to me. You was family. And so, like, I want to say I appreciate you for all that you've done for me, and you've showed me the way. And you've helped me when I was in times that were very low. And you helped me in times where everything was good. And you kept the same. You always been there. So I appreciate you and the loyalty that you have to me.
Just win.
Yes, sir.
Unlock your mental power.
Mm-hmm.
We thank you for having Cory on the show. We have more Cory on the show because he's with us all the time.
Come on now.
And, for our YouTube people, make sure you turn on your post notification.
For sure.
Click that bell right there.
Yeah.
Because we're posting, and we want you to be a part of our community. We want to know your story. Make sure you drop comments below and share this video with one person or two that you know that need to overcome adversity.
Right.
And they need just a little spark to be helped. And if not, go on my website, sign up for my one-on-one coaching, and I'll be able to coach you one-on-one through what you're going through mentally, not just on the court. So we're out.
We out.
Just win.